Thank you, Alan, for those few kind words. I should make the obvious remark that Alan is a lecturer and he's programmed to talk for about 45 minutes. He said it would be 5, but that's not a problem. I'm actually really pleased to be here, stand here holding this book, because there are 3 reasons why I actually didn't think I'd be standing here holding this book. The first one is because I had this bright idea of writing a book. I told a few people about it, and I actually never thought it would happen. It was just an idea, a dream. All right, and I talked about it for a while, and then I kind of started doing it, but I really didn't think at the start it was going to happen. So on that level, it's just nice to have got there, end of the line and all that. The second reason is some people who know me reasonably well will know that I had a minor health issue earlier in this year. And equally, it might have meant I wasn't standing here holding this book, but I am, and that's fantastic. But the third reason that I'm really pleased to be standing here holding this book is they turned up at 9 o'clock this morning. And there was every chance of a book launch that had no books involved. Slight hiccup with the delivery from the distributors, but it's here, so that's fantastic. What I want to say very quickly is my reasons for being involved in the sport, my reasons for writing about it. It's basically a long time back. I've always been interested in the outdoors, and it came on to walking, it came on to running, and I just think it's fantastic sport. You don't need hardly anything to do it, okay? There's one thing you do need if you're going to fell run, and it's a pair of Welsh shoes. So it's not an advert, not an endorsement, but they are the best shoes going up and down hills, okay? So if anyone's not got any, they're the ones. The gestation for the book was, I thought one of my real heroes is a guy called Joss Naylor, and I thought, no one's written anything about this guy. I'll be the guy, I'll write the book about him. And then walking down the street in Ambleside, and there's an advert for a book in the shop by a guy called Keith Richardson, which is a fantastic book, and that was the end of that project. It was done by someone else. So I thought, well, I only really know about this kind of one thing, so what else can I do? And again, the heroes are people like Billy Bland and Gavin Bland. If you follow the sport, they hold some of the records from way back. I thought, I'll write about them. They're 2 guys from the same family, and they've got loads of guys from their own family who are really good. I'll write about them. And I thought, well, okay, I'll pitch the book to a publisher. And you know the whole story about J.K. Rowling was rejected by millions of publishers. I thought, I'm going to be ready. I'm tough, I'm thick-skinned, I can take rejection, it's not a problem. Lo and behold, the first pitch I sent to someone, and I've done a bit of research to try to get the right kind of publishers, but they said, oh, that sounds interesting, but it's too narrow. If you were to reconceive it as a book of history of fell running, we'd be really interested if you can then deliver. So I did that rethinking. And I started making inquiries, and then I got to the point where, okay, this is for real now, and I need to start talking to people. And I did have a bit of a hiccup that Alan's alluded to. The organisation themselves weren't that forthcoming. The governing body of the Fell Runners Association were not that forthcoming. And it's not really for me to be standing here and making particularly critical comments, but there are some things in the book that actually refer to that aspect of it. And then I realised that, okay, I can do the research, but it could be quite a drive. If anyone's read Stud Marks and the Summit, which was an earlier book, which was in the 80s, it's got a lot of detail in it, yeah? Perhaps too much detail. I want to broaden it, and that's why I was going with let's talk to some guys, let's get some personal experience. And I added that stuff in. I got some really good contacts, and one of the good things about this kind of work is the networking that happens with people you have no idea who they are. I've introduced myself to people through the internet and done some research with people. Never met them, but they've been really forthcoming and helping with the idea of spreading the word. And that's one of the really nice things. There's been failures along the way. I really wanted to interview Joss. Got quite close, but never quite got there. And there's other things that just didn't quite happen. But that hasn't really been a problem because I was able to get to some of the big players in the game. If you're interested in the fell running sport, you'll probably know people like Kenny Stewart and Pauline Stewart. And they invited me into their house, and I had a fantastic conversation with the 2 of them. And another guy, Rob Jebb, interviewed him. He's a very quiet guy, didn't really want to publicise things, but when he got going, he told a fantastic story. And it's just brilliant to be able to talk to those people and expose their story. He's won the 3 Peaks cyclocross many times. He's won the Grasmere race. He's just last weekend won the Nantes Paris, or the Paris Horseshoe race, and became the British champion fell runner. So he's a big guy in the sport, and he's in there, and he's got an interesting personal perspective that gives a different view to other people. So there was other things. There was work in the library. It's taken me 2 years of thinking, 2 years of writing, basically, to get here. And at the end, I've ended up, as Alan said, with this kind of 3 strands. It's the whole thing about the history of the sport, it's conversations with some of the players, And initially, there wasn't anything about me in the book. I just didn't think I got anything to contribute to the story. But part of the process of writing, if you take it seriously, is to have feedback from critical friends. And there's 2 critical friends in this room who were very helpful to me. And that's one of the feedback was, there are some things you could actually expand on about yourself. And that's why I did come out of that modest sort of shell that I have to talk about myself and some things I've done. So, I'm just going to, I feel that I have to read something in the book to you. It's kind of, it has to be, and I can read loads of things. But what I'm going to do is just tell you 2 things that Kenny Stewart said to me. Okay? If you don't know who Kenny Stewart is, he was one of the greats in the 80s. Okay? He holds records for fell races that still exist all these years later. If anyone's ever walked up Snowdon, okay, how long did it take you? Okay, the record is 62 minutes up and down Snowdon. Yeah? Anyone walked up Ben Nevis? Okay, you can see some faces that I know walked up there recently. Okay, 65 minutes up and down. Not bad, eh? So he was a good guy. But he had 3 careers, alluded to the professionalism of the sport. He was a professional runner. He did the short up and downs that were happening at the sports events. Then he changed code and became an amateur, so had all his records. He also came off and became a marathon runner. Did 2:11, okay, in 1986, I think it was. And people aren't doing 2:11. British marathoners are not doing that now. So he's had these 3 strands. And I'd just like to quickly give you some thoughts that he gave to me when he was talking to me. Okay, so it's Ben Nevis' record. I just told you that it's still existent and it's still fantastic. His views on the Ben Nevis record was better than his Snowdon record, according to him. He says, I think the Ben was more of a specialist race, say, than Snowdon. Whoever breaks the Ben record is going to have to be a damn good runner and a good specialist as well. So very rarely do you find that sort of runner. Snowdon, you could get a top Kenyan or someone like that come and do it. One tried when we were down there. He went down there in 2010 as a guest. He was a Commonwealth champion on the track, on the flat. Right? He only came 5th in the race. He couldn't run downhill, is Kenny's assumption. And basically he's saying, okay, it's not that easy. It's something you've got to work on and do a lot of work to get to the point where you can do it. So that was his thoughts on the opening up of the sport to the other people who are dominating on the track. It's not that easy. It's a completely different sport. And then at the end, we were reflecting on the current version of what sport's like. And he made an interesting point. He said, no one is outstanding for the men at the moment. You almost feel that someone needs to step up to a higher plane. I think it's diluted by the number of races. If anyone's familiar with how things are, there's a kind of a merge between trail running and road running. There's these intermediate kinds of runs. He talks about midweek races, bunny runs. But it's a good thing in some ways. The leisure runners have a chance to have a go. They also like the fact there is no other sport where grassroots competitors compete against the best, at least in most races. So that's his kind of take on that. It's not altogether happy, but there is another side to it that he really likes. And that's just 2 of the points that were made by him in his conversations with me. And there's interesting perspectives from the different people that I hope you will enjoy. It does just fall to me, really, just to make some thanks to some people who have been very, very instrumental in this thing actually getting to the end. I've alluded to my critical friends, and Celia, who's now my manager for the book selling for the minute, was my first critical friend, had good experience and a lot of things to say about my structure and my way of writing that helped me make a better version from there on. So thank you very much to Celia for that. Alan was my second critical friend, and again there was the whole thing about the iterations, about how I was writing, my style, and all the things that I wasn't including. And I'd like to think there was a better end result because of those 2 sets of feedback. So thank you to both of you for that part. I'd like to also thank Mike Cambry, who's with us today. Some of the pictures up there are things that Mike and I have done together. We did the Carrymores together, we did the Coolin Reefs together, and Mike has been a really good friend over the years, and also has been kind enough to put me up when I wanted to go to a Lake District to do some work, and his family have been kind enough to put me up in his house, and I really appreciate it, Mike, so thank you for being part of this stuff. And I really must thank Moira for being the wife that she is, because you may not believe her, but
I know, I've seen
never actually seen this. Never seen the contents. I'm too shy to show it to Moira because I couldn't take. If you said yes, I'd say you're just saying that. If you said I'd be devastated. So have a look at it. But the point is that Moira, when I said, I think I need another trip to the Lake District, and I'm going to be spending all day in Kendal Library, do you not want to come? She went with it. And I wasn't having an affair with anyone in the Kendal Library, by the way. And also, it's just really understood. I've become obsessed in the last few weeks, waiting for this moment to come. Okay? If anyone ever has any books out, you can go on Amazon, you can see what ranking you are in the sales list of Amazon. She says, oh, that's interesting every day. 14 times when I tell her that it's gone up to 101,000th book on Amazon. So thank you for being understanding on that side of it. What I would say is just do get hold of it if you can. It's a really interesting sort of expose of the whole sport, the whole background to it, where things are, where things have been. And I want you to be inspired, and I want you to get out there and get into the hills and do some running. So what I'm going to do is just ask for your indulgence. One of the other things you should always have at hand is a Swiss knife and a bottle of Orkshead Brewery beer. So I'm going to celebrate myself so I can work out where the thing was up here. Yes. I don't know, but it's not the right one, is it? It's not the right one. Okay, it's not that one. Come on, you wuss. Yes. Oh, a complete wussy. That's got to do it, hasn't it?